WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Tony Kirkman, Piatt County Mental Health Center Director, our guest on the Zoom today. Good morning, Tony. How are you?
I'm well, Seth. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. What'd you think of the Bears draft? The tight end out of, Michigan in the first round?
Yeah, I mean, the analysts say that he's a good pick. I'm a Cole Kmet guy, so I hope that they both get some equal touches, and we still need to figure out something about how to run the ball.
You Bears fans you guys are too emotionally invested in that guy. You really are. He's a good player. I'm not saying you're wrong for that. I'm just saying that is the first thing out of the mouths of every Bears fan I talk to. Well, Cole Kmet. Like, come on.
Yeah, well, we didn't have a great coach last year, so I mean, he wasn't utilized. So we'll see. You know what? Here's the thing. I feel bad for Caleb Williams because he is given the keys to Dad's car, and he's going to have to take it somewhere a little bit further than I don't know how we finished, but we at least need to hit the playoffs for it to be a win.
For sure. Well, it's at least exciting to think about what Ben Johnson could do with that team now. You've got some playmakers for him to get the ball to at least, and a rejuvenated offensive line and all of that. So, while folks probably want to listen to our just astute and just absolutely tremendous Bears analysis, I think we should probably dive into other things, Tony. And among those is the 708 Mental Health Board. And I know you've been providing us kind of updates on what's going on with them for the last several months. But really, I'll say this: moving really in taking a big step forward here recently. It sounds like. What's going on?
Yeah, so just a quick reminder is that in November of last year, the citizens of Piatt County voted by almost 60% to pass a mental health referendum that would allow allocated property taxes to be put towards funding of last resorts for mental health, substance use, and addiction services. And if they forgot about that vote, guess what showed up in the mail this past weekend was your property tax. So you probably see that. And if we are going to ask for partnership from the community, we want to make sure that we're being wise stewards of those dollars. So the 708 board met I'm trying to think, about a couple of weeks ago, and they made some funding decisions. One of them is I'm very thankful they chose to fund a few projects that will help us internally. One is to help supplement the Medicaid loss for our outpatient behavioral health program. Another one is to purchase a vehicle for our developmental services so that we can transport our adults with disabilities to and from community activities. And then another one that's not really that attractive, but it's fun to me, is that they are paying for a electronic training program that will allow both our mental health, our substance use, and our developmental service programs to go through updated training at their own pace, and it'll be able to record that. So we're not investing so much lost hours and workman's time and HR time, or when we are regularly audited by the state. That's going to speed up a lot of things so that we're not wasting extra moments, dollars, and being able to get our staff up-to-date training on topics they're interested in. So those are ours. And then one of the things that was very important to the 708 board was to address some of the emerging needs they saw in Piatt County. So a couple of the needs that came out, one is that the Illinois Youth Survey shows that still around 20% of all 10th and 12th graders have had thoughts of suicide within the past year. When we look at 8th, 10th, and 12th graders, 35% of those have said they've been experiencing depression so severe that they've been discontinuing services or activities that they've normally found enjoyable. So because of those reasons, the Mental Health Board is going into partnership with 2 Piatt County school districts. I'm waiting until the end of this week to say which ones they are, because they still have a school board to meet to make that official. But we're going to put a full-time therapist 4 days out of the week in 2 different school districts and revisit a program that we had. The other programs that we're looking at is that the Department of Aging recently did a study in Piatt County and found that the individuals that participated in this survey that were 55 plus in age that 50% of them identified of having severe depression issues. And so the mental health board wanted to again step in front of that. And so one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to partner with the Piatt County Nursing Home and with Maple Point to put a therapist on site at the nursing home to work with the residents and the staff of both of those long-term care facilities to provide emotional support, emotional wellness training, and just some basic wellness activities. And then the remainder program of that, we're going to have a warm handoff program with the DeWitt Piatt Bi-County Health Department, where they're going to be able to refer over, and we're going to be able to see pretty quickly a lot of the mothers that are going through their WIC program. So they've got a lot of stuff that's going on their plate, a lot of stresses, and if we can provide some resources, some encouragement, some stability, we think that'll just lead to a healthier community.
Gotcha. Well, a couple of things as you were talking there, Tony, that I took note of is, one, the 708 Mental Health Board is really casting a wide net of the things that it is really tackling right off the bat.
Yeah. So again, I thought it's quite interesting. If you look at the three brand new services they are funding in Piatt County that we haven't had here, is they're tackling youth, they're tackling expectant mothers and new families, and again, going to the senior population. So I think you're right, just kind of swinging the gamut across all age groups.
Now, how will this work as I don't venture a guess that the 708 board has the funds yet to distribute. So will this be like when they get those, the dollars for all these things will go out then?
Yeah, that's our expectation is so the taxes have went out, the tax bills have went out. The Treasurer's Department will collect those taxes, and then that money for this half of a year will be allocated to those projects. So we're really hoping that taxes are collected between now and July, and then we'll be able to initiate some of those services in very early fall of 2025.
Gotcha. Very good. What will the total what will the total dollar amount for this be? Was this an application process that these entities had to go through? Was this just something the mental health board recognized and this is where they're starting? How did that work?
So probably more the latter. So there are a couple surveys that are out there. There's the Illinois Youth Survey, which we've talked quite a bit about. The DeWitt Piatt Bi-County Health Department does their own survey called an I-Plan. And then Kirby Medical Center does something called the Community Health Needs Assessment. And all three of those, looking at the data of how they apply to behavioral health, kind of steered the mental health board of saying, when we initiate this first year, these are the three priorities we want to go after.
Gotcha. Did you say what the dollar figure will be invested across all those things?
So for those three programs, it's going to be roughly around $160,000.
Gotcha. That's great. Right off the bat. Yeah. So, okay. So that funding will go out, and I can't remember. I know we've talked about this before. I know a large chunk is going to go to the Piatt County Mental Health Center. You're talking about roughly 160,000 ish to these three programs. So how will the community then go about, like, whether it's applying for, seeking funding for, will that be a part of this first year of those dollars coming in? Do you mind speaking to that, Tony?
Yeah, no, excellent question, Seth, and thanks for the lead, because this is the part that the 708 Mental Health Board wants the community to be aware of, is that if you are a nonprofit and you are providing services for mental health, addiction, or developmental services, and you can demonstrate that these dollars would be funded as a funder of last resort, you can apply for funding. And so the application window for FY26 will be starting in June 1st, and then it'll go all the way until, I want to say, July 7th. Individuals that are interested can reach out to our board president. His name is Michael Schroeder. He's actually the director of the DeWitt Piatt Bi-County Health Department, and his email address is mschroeder@dewittpiatthealth.com. He will be able to give you the application, answer any questions you might have. But what we're hoping for is that applicants would submit The board would have a chance to review, and then funding announcements would come out in October, which would then you would have service contracts coming out, and basically people would have their cash by around January 1.
Gotcha.
And that would be the first calendar year of funding. So yeah, really excited. Hopefully we can get some good applicants. There's a lot of good nonprofits out there doing some good stuff. And again, that's our thing, is you've got to be able to show that your program is really doesn't have any state, federal, or private foundation funding, and then you'd be eligible for it.
Now, what will that process of application look like? I mean, is there like a paper application put together? Is this something where like an agency would have to have like a grant writer or something of that nature?
No. And again, since this is the first year that the 708's in existence, it sadly is still going to be on a paper application for review, but the application process is really, really simple. It's, ask for a dollar amount, explain a little bit about your program, demonstrate, that the financial requirements. I can't, when I looked at it, I don't think the application is more than 4 pages long. Super, super easy. If you sat down and designated probably 45 minutes to an hour, you'd be done. Gotcha.
Once those are in, what will that process then be like? Is it going to be one of those things where you will want like an interview or something of that nature? What does that kind of look like after that application is then submitted there, Tony?
Yeah, so they would submit them, they would vet them, and then when they are looking at funding decisions, they'd probably call you back in like October just for some clarification questions, asking your scope of services. Again, this is a financial partnership between 2 entities, and so it should feel like a good relationship. So it's not getting grilled. It's just saying, I think the board's wanting to know the heart of the organization, understanding that they have a obligation to be good fiscal managers, and they have been given the public's trust, and they take that very seriously to guard the public's trust. So these are not 708 dollars. These are Piatt County taxpayers' dollars, and they need to do a very good job of vetting and holding organizations accountable to good fiscal processes.
Well, and in a small place like, Piatt County is large in area, but in a, small knit community like Piatt County, you're largely familiar with all the players in that world, right?
I think so. And I think that Piatt County's done a really good job of finding some really talented 708 board members. So we have former directors of social service programs. We have foundation members and different nonprofits. We have attorneys. We have school board members, current social service providers. We have therapists. We have pastors. So it is a very nice collaboration of community leaders that are on this board that really do have their finger on the pulse and kind of know what's going on.
Well, Tony, great news. This is just like, this is kind of why you got this initiative started, right? And now we're kind of here in a roundabout way. So, really, really exciting stuff to see this get to where you wanted it to be. And I'm sure it's just all downhill from there. Did we miss anything in the conversation you want to put out there? Anything of that sort?
Not really. I think, again, just reminding people that applications are going to be open starting in June. Ask Mr. Schroeder for a clarification. And I guess, Seth, I just want to come back to saying thank you to the residents of Piatt County for trusting us to try to address some of the issues in our community to make it more healthier and a great place to live. And I just wanted to say we take their trust very seriously, and we hope that we make them proud.
Tony Kirkman, Executive Director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center, my guest on the Zoom today. We'll take a break here. More to come with Tony on The Morning Show.
WHOW. Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. A higher start for corn, beans, and Chicago wheat. July corn opening 448 1/4, up 4 3/4. September corn up 3 1/4, 424 3/4. December new crop 438 3/4, up 3 1/4. July beans starting the day 1050 3/4, up 3/4. August beans up 1 1/4, 1047 1/2. And November new crop 1037, up 1 1/2. July wheat starting the day 534 1/2, up 9 1/2. September wheat up 9, 548. And December wheat up 8 1/4, 569 1/4. July bean meal 291.70, that's down 20 cents. July bean oil down 2 cents, 48.91. Opening numbers on this Monday morning. Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network.
Baum Chevrolet Buick offers full transportation options while giving you peace of mind. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton and Farmer City. This is what we strive to do each and every day. We'll listen to you, give you the options for routine maintenance, major mechanical problems, or collision repairs with a staff that is knowledgeable to find the best option for you. Baum Chevrolet Buick, your full-service dealer. See us at baumchevybuick.com right from the start.
SIU Family Medicine wants the best health for you and your family. Be a champion. Protect your loved ones. The SIU Center for Family Medicine of Lincoln is accepting new patients. Click their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com to schedule your appointment.
Hi, I'm Brett with Central Cremation Center. We're proudly offering pet cremation services to help keep your faithful companion close to you. Learn more about our pet services by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Tony Kirkman, Executive Director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center, on the Zoom with us today. And Tony, I know you and I caught up actually last time, but after we finished up, you mentioned to me you were going to be in Nashville and had totally forgot about it. First of all, how was Nashville? What'd you think?
Oh, Nashville's always fun. A lot of training. They were busy days, but I can't complain. We stayed in the Gaylord Hotel, and yeah, it was nice. Wish I had a little bit more time on Broadway, but it was a good time. So,
well,
yeah.
you were telling me some interesting little tidbits out of that. What did you come away with? What was going on?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, it was a nice training. So what we participated in was called the Prescription and Illicit Drug Summit 2025 at Nashville, Illinois, or Nashville, Tennessee. Sorry, we did almost go through Nashville, Illinois. But I would say probably the biggest thing that jumped out to me was it appears that we are making positive strides against the battle of fatal overdoses. So we had Director Volkov from the National Institute of Drug Abuse providing us with most up-to-date numbers. And I think they actually just got released last week, which shows that overall deaths by drug overdose has decreased by almost 30%, which is shocking. It's as you've probably been aware, deaths by fentanyl have been climbing by 15% almost every single year. But with the introduction of things that are associated with harm reduction, education, I think the prescription monitoring program that physicians have to fill out to stop doc shopping, we're seeing some positive gains there. So I would say the drug overdose numbers were big. And then there was one line that an individual gave me that I'm still playing around in my head. And he says that the common nomenclature is that that marijuana is the gateway drug.
Uh-huh.
And he said that's actually incorrect. Trauma is the gateway drug.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to start realizing that we need to be addressing the trauma, not just the chemical dependency. And so, he went on to say that the opposite of addiction is not healing, or is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connectedness. Mm. So getting people connected to groups, understanding that recovery is a process, and that we do this together. So great training, good stuff. Work's not done yet, though. We still have 86,000 people sadly losing their lives to this disease.
Right. Yeah, sure. Well, and I would add to that, probably the right connection, because I mean it's easy to probably fall back into where you were, but pre-addiction or in that addiction cycle and those sorts of things as well. But yeah. So and do you find, Tony, you go to those things and you come back with a rejuvenated passion and those sorts of things?
Yeah, I do. I mean, when we do the work around here, sometimes you feel like you're on an island and you're swimming against the current. And, there is still a stigma related to substance use and those that are in recovery. And all it really takes is just a few reminders of why the battle is worth fighting. When you see people that are passionate about recovery and, I went to one training several years ago, and there was a gentleman there that had been clean for 15 years after 30 years of just rampant drug use. Mm-hmm. And he was given the microphone and they said, "What's one thing you want all of these professionals to know about?" And he goes, "It's the same message I want everybody in recovery to know about. Recovery is possible." And the idea of as long as you have hope that something can change, there's still a fight there. So it was a great conference. If anybody is interested, it's probably one of the better ones in the nation that I went to. And again, they announced that it's going to be down in Nashville for 2026. So get your tickets now.
Yeah, right. Not too far, really, all things considered. So very good, Tony. Hey, let's wrap up. You mentioned with me in that first segment talking about the investments that the 708 Mental Health Board is going to make and those sorts of things. You referenced in there the Illinois Youth Survey. It feels like it's been a while since you and I have touched on that and just haven't heard much about it. What has come out of that? How much do you do an analysis of that? Those sorts of things. What stood out? What's been the latest there?
So probably the latest is again tied probably to the subject that we just talked about. And if you or your listeners have some wisdom for me, I would love, please reach out to me, call me, shoot me an email, because they've started to ask a new question this year of 10th and 12th graders that they've never asked before. And the question is this: do you identify as being in recovery? So for many, many times, we're talking about first time you used drugs, who did you use them with, who gave them to you, or on our end, we're doing the prevention messages. Don't use substances, lead a substance-free lifestyle. We've never thought about recovery for adolescents. And recovery is different than prevention and treatment. It is literally a rebuilding of cognition. So all of that to say, when we looked at it, and we looked at the 10th and 12th graders, 13% of those that used said, I'm in recovery, which was fascinating.
That is. I'll tell you what, Tony, let's start there next time we get connected. Does that sound good? Let's dive into that a little bit. That's fascinating to me.
Yep. Sounds great.
Where do folks go to learn about all things Piatt County Mental Health Center?
PiattMHC.org, 217-762-5371, or look us up on Facebook.
Tony Kirkman, Piatt County Mental Health Center. Network News is now.